Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Most are afraid of unknown depths, skirting shores thinking world flat, and with the island girls in celebration of new religion. Nobody led me or said this way. I sailed alone on makeshift raft with wind as companion. Fate for deliverance, confidence enough to assess new disposition. Seekers of lost paradise may seem fools to those who never sought the other worlds. Welcome to Momentary Zen with Zen Garcia. Visit www.fallenangels.tv. You're listening to Revolution Radio.
The grand deception as matrix is all-encompassing, consuming, and broad-reaching, yet so covert in imposition, it is largely unnoticed by those born into its nurturance. Its programmed assimilation is so subtle, one was never even granted choice to deviate from its forced indoctrination. Most are raised unknowingly as slaves, incarcerated by the deviant proposition of its finite machination. Welcome to the New World Order. Hello, friends. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is Momentary Zen, and this evening I'm going to be elaborating a little bit on the New World Order and talking, really kind of just commenting on something that I had seen earlier, in which it really bothered me, which I really don't even have a lot of time to watch the many videos that a lot of people link to me or send to me, and but for some reason I did watch this video today, and I don't even remember the name of it, but I do remember in the video itself it was talking about the some curriculum that had been passed in the state of Florida, and it was um, I guess a program where they gave the funding to this particular group in order to devise an educational curriculum for the children of that particular state, and then it gets implemented on um, a statewide level, and it affects elementary school, grade school, the junior high, and I guess even to some degree the universities, or maybe the public funded colleges. And but anyways, in the video was depicting how they were really pushing hard, um, uh, um, basically indoctrinating the kids into whatever it is that they were wanting to pass, and that the state representative or the senator that was speaking about this curriculum, and that had gone to this website and looked at the details of what kind of stuff that they were be teaching, that there was a specific emphasis on introducing into the educational system the whole, as far as the homosexual agenda, and when I say agenda, I'm specifically regarding a 10-point plan that was um, a proposal that was put forth by Alice Bailey as principles for guiding um, what the New World Order wanted to institute, especially in the United States, with destroying the Christian values and the principles or the doctrines which used to, going back a few decades now, um, used to be a guiding principle for the way that parents would raise their children, and that we have so far deviated from what our grandparents lived and grew up with, that there's no recognition in um, in the way things were then and as the way things are now. And it's not just the introduction of homosexuality as the normalizing, but within these principles, but also other things like the destruction of the family unit to create promiscuity, to destroy the institution of marriage, the sanctity of marriage, to make divorce easily accessible, also to create easy access abortion and to foster rights in a way that people's rights, children's rights, women's rights, whatever rights, for whatever group, that these kind of rights would trump the the focus of the entire destruction was on the values of a culture or people that embrace Christianity and that growing up with the Bible adhered to its laws, commandments, and principles. And because of that, in taking God out of schools, prayer out of schools, these kind of things, um, that they would be able to make the focus of the whole plan and the agenda was to normalize abomination. And so this evening, I'm gonna talk about a little bit more about this 10-point plan, because for those that are not aware of it, that have not heard about it or looked into it in manner, that maybe don't know who Alice Bailey was and how her teachings connected to um, what is New World Order as agenda. And I don't mean as far as world government, but as in destroying the family unit, the values and the principles of a nation, especially that of a Christian nation. And the focus was specifically on those peoples and people of faith, Christians, patriots that um, that embraced the teachings of God and that believed in God and believed in a coming judgment, believed in that there would be consequences to our actions and to perpetuating evil. And so it's really telling how far we have come as far as, like, I named this show the I can't even remember right now. I think it was the destabilization of America, or the uh I'll look it up anyways. But anyways, just about how America and how we used to be um as a nation, how we used to be looked up to and regarded as a bastion of freedom and as a nation of hope and faith and principle and value and um, the extension of goodwill, the uh, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness to all people everywhere. How so many peoples and nations looked up to us and regarded us as that shining light on the hill, as a beacon of faith. And yet, in the time that these principles were written, put down, and then instituted by the individuals and now specifically the United Nations as the strong arm of the one world system, the one world government and agenda, that even in other nations we see this reflected all over the world, how the very foundation of who we once were as people has been totally destroyed. And so let me pull up exactly what I named this show. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that this evening. And I would recommend that people, look into it, study it for themselves, because I believe it's absolutely important. Oh, the degradation of America is what I called it. But that it's important for, especially, people that buy into and support and trust government and doctors and their world leaders, and that believe in the hype, in the promises that they make, and that still hold on to the dreams, um, and the goals, the promises that are made by leaders when they go up for uh, needing to be, basically needing your vote, even though really the vote doesn't matter, doesn't count, especially with a electronic voting system that has no paper trail or way to confirm, and that it's basically been accepted that there's no way to affirm one man, one vote, or that the vote actually went down a certain way. That, I mean, it's as easy as hacking into the system, going in through a back door and fixing it, rigging it however they choose to, and wanting whoever they want to win, and how much of a victory they want to represent with the vote. And that even during the times when this electronic voting system was being questioned and people were looking into the irregularities, there were so many times when the number of votes for a certain candidate would even outnumber the number of people that were registered to vote within a certain county. I mean, and it is absolutely ludicrous to what extent the the deception and the corruption, how far it has gone. And it's so sad that we just accept it as it is, and that there's no even, no accountability in having somebody look into it and see why it is the way that it is. I mean, even with now the Supreme Court okaying corporations getting involved in elections, because when that all happened, it just basically legalized bribery, and that the whole the lobbying system, they were basically authorized to I'm not sure what's going on, Olive. If you're trying to listen to me, all you have to do is click on the play in Studio B. But somebody in the chat room, give me a shout out and make sure that you can hear me and that I'm coming through loud and clear. I just want to be sure that it's only a problem with him and not the rest of you. I'm sure somebody would have said something by now, but anyways, and so tonight I'm going to basically share commentary about about my disgust with the way things are, and also my concern, because the agenda has been so far pushed and quickly accelerated that, according to their own words and according to their own dictates, that there is a massive occurrence planned to bring down the system as it currently is, and that they are doing this on purpose, because the whole contention of the protocols is to bring order out of chaos, and the whole premise of establishing this new world order dictatorial system for which they want to just hand off to their antichrist, their god, which, for those that don't know, I mean, if you don't know that your world leaders are in fact luciferians, satanists, and that they worship their god through blood ritual, then you are really going to miss out on making any kind of sense of what's going on with world, because it's only with understanding, with embracing and accepting the reality that indeed our world leaders, these Freemasonic secret society blue blood elite, that they are tied together in manner um, which they celebrate their associations to the fallen angels and to Lucifer, because they know that they are excuse me, they have blood relation to him, and that they are indeed the children of Cain, the synagogue of Satan. And it they relish in such knowledge, even though the rest of the world, we as the sons of Adam, we have forgotten um, about this ancient war. We have forgotten about the legacies of who we are and how we got to be where we are now, of why things are as they are, of why chaos rules when all the rest of us want to see and to work towards and for is the establishment of a world where our children can be raised and nurtured in peace and safety and joy. And I know that, it all sounds so idealistic, but why not? Is it too much to ask for, really? I mean, have we not learned our lessons about hating each other and coveting each other's stuff or our wives and, the simple honoring the 10 commandments of respecting your elders, our mothers and fathers, and uh, not committing rape, pillage, and plunder against one another. I mean, simple things you would think which seemingly are simple directives for guiding people in relation with one another. And yet, the reality is these kind of things are not reflected in who we are as a collective. And again, the reason being is because there are those amongst us that are not like us. Thank you, Link. I appreciate that. And so after the first break, I'm going to go into um, I'll go into this 10-point plan and share and read and comment as we go along. But Blues Girls says that she also has been lamenting, and I think a lot of us are. The nobody wants to see the world just embedded in nonstop chaos. That really all of us want to get to a point where we see some real change, where we see the direction, the collective fate of all of us turn for the better, to swing into something positive, to know that there's still justice in the world and that there's still goodness, and that all the heaviness, the despair that we see reflected in, especially in the realities of so many third world nations, which we are absolutely quickly being degraded into here in America. We've been so subjugated with just ungodly, unimaginable amounts of debt that really, if that money that has been used to pay down even the interest on the debt for the past 3, 4, 5 years, if that money was gathered together and used for good, that even that would create positive change and affect the world in ways that we can't even conceive, because it's so beyond us now that the world can embrace altogether in using our energy in our effort, that we can altogether do something for the betterment of world and to create a positive outcome for each one of us. And it gets tiring. It really, for those, especially those of us that have awakened and that have been awakened to New World Order, that see what's going on, that sometimes the weight of such revelation can be oftentimes unbearable, especially those that have not learned um, to balance the heaviness and the weight of all that negativity and being witness to evil just um, just stampeding over good time and time again, and the New World Order elites getting away with stealing elections and installing presidents and um, raping children, killing, murdering innocents. I mean, all of that gets it can get to be too much. But and especially for those that know and have relationship with Creator, that there is a day of reckoning coming. That at the end of the rope, at the end of the tunnel, there is a light ahead, and there is a judgment that will ensue and bring everybody to justice. And that knowing that really gives me sense of relief, that understanding that it's not all for naught and that they're not going to get away with it forever. That really brings me a sense of peace while being here in the midst of the chaos, being in the eye of the tornado, and seeing everything swirling around me. All right, we'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody, and so we'll go into some of this 10-point plan. And I don't have the link right before me. You can certainly just Google search Alice Bailey's 10-point plan for New World Order. But for those, again, that have not read or studied any of these principles, once you have, once you look into it, well, it becomes absolutely plain as to what has been established here in this country as way to, again, destroy the family unit and to bring and make abomination in all kind of facets. um, Normalize it, indoctrinate the children into it, and make them accept it and to act upon it, and to, from the other side, to destroy the the doctrines which um, had raised, encouraged, and guided the previous generations in being raised to adulthood. And that really, in the last couple of generations, we have seen a, a total destruction in this regard. In that, whereas there had been a time when very few rebelled against, the faith of their fathers, the faith of their mothers, and nurturance through, the commandments, and understanding. And for those that, because I know there's a lot of New Age listeners on this particular network, and for those that might totally be against Christianity as a faith or God as, creator, whether you want to believe in a higher power or you believe that the ancient aliens are creators or are benefactors, or those that believe that that Yeshua, Jesus Christ, that he was somehow an ancient alien. Because I know that specifically in a lot of the New Age faiths and in a lot of the New Age doctrines, that they teach that there is no retribution and that um, nobody will suffer, that we're all going to ascend together to what is the next level of consciousness, or to that we're all going together into the new golden age of evolution or evolved humanity. And a lot of people buy into it and believe it. Like, I had a friend over not even long ago, and we were talking about because those of you that know, I used to be involved in all of that, and having studied and embraced the New Age deceptions and religions and knowledge and information, and I used to uh, believe and buy into that we could all be gods ourselves, and that we were all Christ-like, and that we were all striving to achieve what he achieved while he was here in the flesh. Yes, I used to buy into all the same lies that Lucifer told to Adam and Eve, and saying that you can be as gods yourself. And that, oh, did he say that you would die if you ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? I mean, did God really say that? And so, yeah, I used to buy into all that as well. And so I know about these things because I lived it for so very long. And like, specifically, there's a set of books out there which are entitled Conversations with God. These books by Neil Donald Walsh. And I know for a fact that in those books, they teach that even Hitler, that everybody was going to ascend together, that we're all going into the new age, that we're all going to reach a certain elevated consciousness, and that we're going into the fourth dimension together, and that there's no retribution, that none of us have to worry about any consequences for sin. In fact, they teach that there is no sin. Um, and that because there's no sin, there's no consequence for our actions. It's just, basically good and evil are necessary opposites, and that it perpetuates itself in order for all of us to receive lesson while we're here on this earth plane. And that, again, there's, well, there's no God, in that, there's a grand creator, or a grand designer outside of all of us together as collective, that we together as God, that we created everything, and that all we have to do is wake up and remember these things, and that we can then reach this grand awakening where, again, we will uh, unlock this Christ consciousness within us, and remember that we are God, and that then we can do all things as we had done previously. And also, another doctrine that's, so heavily um, tied in with the New Age belief systems, is the belief in reincarnation, and that we are evolving through multiple lifetimes in order that we then can at some point get it right. And having gotten it right, we can then escape the whole wheel of reincarnation, is what they tell us, and what, the all the people that are channeling all these teachings, um, they write in their manuscripts. And because a lot of it sounds so good and it's so flowery, and it just sounds like the kind of world that we would all envision if we were able to, manifest it ourselves. Um, that it's all just so beautiful and so golden and um, so new age, that how could it not be as these beings say? The um, the the great white brotherhood, or the ascended masters, or the the divine council of whatever. They always make it sound um so evolved. These groups that are supposed to be guiding and assisting humanity, and yet if they were going to lead us in this direction and do all these beautiful things and help us to accomplish all this incredible beauty and harmony, and why haven't they already assisted us in doing so? Why is the world still caught up in chaos? you know and so that in itself should let you know. And then look at the Sumerian, and I'm about to go into the 10-point plan, I promise, but I'm still ranting. And so look at even the Sumerian teachings, where they talk about the Anunnaki, all of their efforts to enslave humanity, or to manipulate, experiment upon, or to interdict themselves into the affairs of humanity in order that they could control and establish power over us. And then align that with like the Gnostic teachings on the archons, and how they have been trying to establish the same thing: control and to enslave humanity, and um, to rule over humanity being in a fallen state and in a fallen world. That there is so much truth within those texts. And then you look at the biblical narrative of Satan and the rebel angels, or Lucifer before he became Satan the adversary. They're being cast out of heaven for warring against the Most High God and the Father and the Son, because they were trying to establish themselves as being like the Most High. That they didn't want to take orders, they wanted to control and manipulate things for their own whim, and to be the controllers, the rulers, and not the servants. And for that, they were cast out, they were exiled here to the earth. And then the story continues that, when modern humanity was created, that they, or Satan specifically, wanted to get involved in causing the downfall of humanity, the temptation, the beguilement, causing them to go against the directives, the wishes, and the commands of the Most High God. And look at how it says that, these powers, these principalities, rulers of darkness, wickedness in high places, how they have since that time, since their banishment, have been warring against the seed of humanity through their own physical bloodline, through Satan's own seed here upon the earth. That we have cousins, we have a race of hominid here on the earth which look like us and can even act like us and pretend to be us, and yet in their heart they are cold and vindictive and evil. They are the personification of evil. And that these beings, these, these cousins of ours have been ruling from the shadows, have been pushing an agenda, have been pretending to be like us in order to subjugate us, in order to establish control, and that they utilize infiltration, and that because they have basically imprisoned the entire world through their Ponzi schemes, as far as the Federal Reserve System and central banks and the creation of currency and money and wealth out of nothing, because they have this magical powers and this prowess for deception, that they have been able to subjugate us into what the fallen angels declared as, you know, as as the goal of their efforts to put us under a one world system, to rule worldwide with impunity. And then once this is established, one world government, one world religion, one world people, one world economy, one world system, that then they could, after the big whatever it is that they want to bring forth, that will set all the dominoes in motion, that destroys the very fabric of civilization as we currently know it, the economic system as it currently works and has maintained itself, this whole illusion of, supply and demand and utilization of paper money, which has no, is backed by nothing but, phony baloney, that when that system comes down through their own efforts, because they are planning to destroy it, because they already have in mind something to replace it with, that when that happens, then they are going to openly introduce their God, their Luciferian God. As Albert Pike said, then they would come out of the shadows and introduce the world to the, and who we know as the Antichrist, but who they call as God. All right, let's go into this. The first directive of this 10-point plan, and how important is this? Take God and prayer out of the educational system. That's their number one goal in implementing the rest of what they have as directive. And how have we seen that across the board? That when they do that, and when they have done that, that children, well, first, they lose any sense of relationship with God as a higher power, as a guiding force for their lives. Because when they don't pray and they are not taught to pray, they don't grow up praying, then they just never do. And because of that, they ignore relationship, direct personal relationship with the Creator. And I know we're going to run out of time, so I'm going to try to move through these kind of fast. And there's some commentary I'm going to read with each one of these, but I will share commentary as we go, but I do want to at least try to get through some of these before getting too far into the second hour. And so Alice Bailey said, if you change the curriculum to ensure that children are freed from the bondage of Christian culture, why? Because children go to school to be equipped to face life. They are willing to trust and they are willing to value what is being given to them. But if you take God out of the educational system, they will unconsciously form a resolve that God is not necessary to face life. They will focus on those things that the school counts as worthy to be passed on. And so, how so very true, and how so very sinister on behalf of Satan and these minions who serve him, for them to institute this plan, this directive, and to separate God from his people and from future generations. And how, because of that, we see reflected into the very fabric of culture and civilization, especially here in the United States, insanity. Children are psychotic now, and there is no sanctity for life. They are willing to murder each other for a pair of shoes just because they have disagreement, because they do not believe in a God and do not believe in a judgment or repercussions to their actions. They feel like they can do anything that they want. Number two, reduce parental authority over children. And I was just talking to a friend of mine earlier today um, about an older boy. He's not real old, but in, I guess, 13, 14 years old. But because his parents are going through a breakup and because of certain things, um, he has been acting out because he is hurt inside and he really wants help to make things better for himself and his brothers. But because um, things aren't better, children act out in response, in reaction to their situation. And so this is happening with a lot of children across the board because another one of the directives is to destroy the family unit, to make divorce rampant. And, as I was talking about, if you go back um, 100 years to our grandparents' time, divorce was almost unheard of. And people worked out their relationships. If they got into trouble, well, first, they didn't cheat on each other in the way that we see reflected in the way things are now. And they weren't involved in sin in the way that we see. And this all these things all have to do with this 10-point plan as well. All right, so let's continue before the break. She said, break the communication between parents and children. Why? So that parents do not pass on their Christian traditions to their children. All right, we'll be right back. We'll get through this, I promise. All right. Welcome back, everybody. just really quickly, those of you that can know that Revolution Radio would appreciate the financial support for our just really maintaining operational status. And there's like, even though it's not a lot, there is some monthly cost to producing and putting together the network in the way that it is, and in hosting all the many shows that are hosted on both Studio A and Studio B. And so those of you that can, there's different as far as the GM non-GMO CPAC, the bullet drive with the information. There's often uh, you know they're willing to trade out silver eagles for a certain amount of donation. And so just go to freedomslip.com and click on uh, the products or those items which you can buy, even if you don't want to just donate directly. That there is a product list there available for you at different levels of support, and that know that we appreciate you, and that your assistance is what makes possible the all of our being able to utilize the network as a platform for truth. And so, which gives us the opportunity to even do what we do. And so, uh, going back into this 10-point plan, I believe I did. I linked it to the chat room for those of you that might want to read it later. But know that the commentary that I'm making, even though it is from the article, the link to the article that I had posted in the chat room, that I made it my own. That I in having read through them and studied them, that I added my own commentary in a lot of ways. And so there will be things that you will see, um, having been cited on the show, that are not found on the article or in connection to the commentary that you will find there. So know that that is the difference. And so, continuing, and we're going to quickly go through these because I want to make sure that I finish them. And I think it's important that people know about this. And so, um, we were talking about reduced parental authority over children, and how Alice Bailey said, break the communication between parent and child. Why? So that parents do not pass on their Christian traditions to their children. Liberate children from the bondage of their parental traditions. How? By promoting excessive child rights. And then there's example of how they did this, in South Africa, introducing the child's rights legislation, and how in UNICEF there is a charter, and how the United Nations is going to try to establish all these international laws as way um, to trump the sovereignty of nations, and to institute these so-called civil rights. um, and basically it's to further their agenda of what I'm reading here, to destroy the family unit, to destroy the way that children are raised as far as having a Christian upbringing, because they realize the importance of a child's relationship with the creator in developing a a good human being. And that if you can destroy that relationship and their relationship with their parents, then you can institute and indoctrinate them into all kind of excess, just by getting them to listen to the music that you create, the films that you create, the media that is utilized for mass marketing, uh, the film and basically the propaganda that is created in order to, and that is called art, but it's a way of subjugating these children and raising them in sin, and to get them to accept sin in their lives, and in accepting sin in their lives, that they will then act upon it and mimic the behavior. All right, so continuing. Also, to abolish corporal punishment, so that you do not, so in that preventing, punishment or spankings or paddling from happening to the children, that there's no deterrence for their behaviors and there's no repercussions to their action. And it's the same thing for humanity as a whole. when when if you become an atheist, or if you believe in Darwinism, or you buy into the whole "we evolved a monkey" and that that there is no real God, or that the only God is the ancient aliens that are coming, because they can't watch everything that we do. They don't know what we're doing in the dark. They're not here. Wherever they are, they're certainly not going to be able to judge us or to make us pay for our actions. And so, the people that buy into either of those extremes as far as belief, they they don't believe in retribution. They don't believe in judgment. They don't believe that there is any kind of consequence to the things that they do today. And so they're okay with propagating and perpetuating evil. All right, continue. Teachers are the agents of implementation. They tell your children that your parent has no right to force you to pray or to read the Bible. You have a right to discover yourself, self expression, self realization, self fulfillment. Are those not new age rhetoric? I mean, absolutely match up with the things that Lucifer tells to people through all these supposed channelers and all those that are writing all this new age doctrine and have been for decades now. Um, and that children have the right to choose whether they want to follow any kind of faith, the faith of their parents or not. And parents are not allowed to enforce their faith upon children. The third directive: destroy the Judeo Christian family structure, or the traditional Christian family structure. Now, notice, that all of these directives are attack on the Christian faith and to the guiding principles of, the gospel and the effect that it has on people's lives, because they, in their goals, if they can separate people from belief in God, from knowledge in God, relationship with God, and force parents to not teach their children about these kind of things, they know that the children are going to grow up in madness, and that they will be absolutely susceptible to the propaganda that they have streaming out through the radio, through as far as music, through the TV, as far as shows, movies, through the movie theater. I mean, the kids are bombarded with questionable promotion through art and media. All right, which is also a later directive and part of the plan. So, but let's continue. All right. Uh, as far as the family, they know that the family is the core of the nation, and that if you break the family, you break the nation, you liberate the people from the confines of this structure. The family unit as being the nuclear, the group which uh, basically creates bonds among those that are part of a family unit, and that the family is what supports the individual in their growth and their changes all throughout life. All right, continue. Um, Promotes sexual promiscuity, premarital sex, make it the highest joy in life, so that the children would later fantasize about it, and they will take pride in being either sexually active or promiscuous or in having sex outside of marriage. Um, the other portion of this directive, which is number 3, destroying the family unit, use advertising, the advertising industry, media, TV, magazines, and film industry to promote sex as the highest pleasure in humanity. And in that way, you make it the goal and the focus of the lives of children that grow up in this carnal world. And has that not, I mean, it's consumed the lives of not just the children, but all the elder, the old people, having grown up in this kind of a world, and that now, for most people everywhere, sex is their number one goal, the goal of their life, and the thing that they want to accomplish and succeed in more than anything else. All right, number 4. If sex is free, then make abortion legal and make it easy. I mean, of course, you got to have, uh, for those that are getting involved in promiscuity and exploring, sexual fantasies in whatever way that they do, you can't have unwanted pregnancies as being any kind of an obstacle for their fulfilling their desires in that way. And so you've got to make abortion easily accessible and something that they can do on any afternoon. That they can skip class and go and do a procedure, and then it's all good. Go back to the same behaviors, in living the same lifestyle. And so Alice Bailey said, build clinics for abortion, put health clinics in schools, and if people are going to enjoy sexual relationships, that they need to be free of unnecessary fears and should not be hampered with unwanted pregnancies. A woman should have the freedom to get rid of a pregnancy. Notice how they impersonalize it, you know, not a child, but just a unwanted pregnancy. To get rid of pregnancy safely, painlessly, and as easy as possible. That you make it accessible, and then when it's accessible, then parents, in dealing with their unruly children or their daughters that get pregnant at an early age, often they will instruct them or force them to have an abortion. And so abortion, because of its accessibility, then later becomes a forceful or coerced action. What they don't tell you in regard to this particular directive is that one of the highest priorities of the New World Order agenda is to control population and to depopulate, and not only um, to create negative population growth, but also to destroy us at every turn of the way. Which abortion, look at how many, since it's been instituted in this country, how many millions of children have been aborted. I mean, it is sick what's going on. And another thing that they don't tell you, beyond this being connected to, um, this, like the number one agenda on the Georgia Guidestones, is to reduce the population of humanity to less than 500,000 or less, in order to create a servant class. And so, a manageable population or something of that nature. And the other thing is that these abortions are in fact blood sacrifices to their God. And that if you look at, even in the Bible, it talks about how the going back generations, there was this blood sacrifice and these blood rituals, and how the children, the seed of Cain, they were involved in offering their children as victim sacrifice to their fallen angel gods. And so all of that is connected into that as directive as well. All right, continuing. Number 5, make divorce easy and legal, and you free people from the concept of marriage for life. And again, like I said, as far as looking at our grandparents' generation, how, you know, the um, how marriage was a real commitment, and how people, there was a sanctity to marriage in previous generations, and how people that made a commitment during those olden days, during what seems to be a previous age, how they dedicated themselves to such commitment. It was a sacred vow for them. And that now people get married, and it's almost like a meaningless ritual, that there's nothing behind the words that are spoken. And some people have been married 4, 5, 6 times. I mean, it's crazy. All right, so I'll read the commentary. It says, their goal, and this is the 5th directive, their goal was to destroy the sanctity of marriage and the biblical definition of a sacred love bond. I also, or they also wanted to promote that a love bond between two people can come and go, and that when discovered, even if the other person is married, that it should be pursued at all costs. And that if you have to cause the divorce of another person from another person in order to free up access to them, and relationship with them, that that should be pursued, and that should be the norm. And so we see, as I was talking about this child that was acting out because of what his parents were going through, that this is now the norm. And continuing, when it dies, speaking about the love bond, and when it dies, the love bond, one should be able to just go out and look elsewhere. And that if it should die when you're with a certain person, that there's no need to stay committed to the relationship or to the marriage, but that just go out and get you a divorce and go elsewhere. That it's just a thing. It's like abortion, something you can just do on on a weekday, or on a Sunday after. Well, not the abortion, but on a on an after some afternoon, sometime, and just go about your business. And so they are promoting to people to don't be held in bondage by the Christian values, and make divorce easy and love easy to find again. Number 5. Number 6, make homosexuality an alternative lifestyle. Alice Bailey preached 50 years ago that sexual enjoyment is the highest pleasure in humanity, and that no one must be denied and no one must be restricted on how to enjoy themselves. People should be allowed to enjoy sex in whichever way they choose, whether it is homosexuality or even incest or bestiality, as long as two people agree, which in the case of bestiality, I guess you have to get the animal to agree. I mean, how warped, how demented. But already we see on many levels that homosexuality as lifestyle, as alternative lifestyle, is being instituted even into the textbooks. And that right now we are seeing, the whole homosexuality agenda being instituted into the educational systems as if it was a totally normal thing. And that it will continue to evolve, and that they are going to attempt to normalize incest, bestiality, and also pedophilia. I mean, even I heard of the whole man boy love club, or or group, or whatever it is. It's like a big brother or big sister type club, but it's promoting love relations between older and younger people, and how, as I said, and according to this directive, they're going to try to normalize such behavior. And that what we're seeing with homosexuality is only the very tip of the iceberg. I mean, there was just a story even today, that came out on the news here in Georgia, that talked about uh, a homosexual minister or pastor who came out to his congregation just today, and he's attempting to, normalize the approval of homosexual priests in that particular church system. And also, there was a principal, and it was on, Gay Pride Day or whatever at his school, and how he said that, he couldn't lie about, honoring that during that particular day. And so he came out to all of his students, and they were all, clapping, and in total support, and how it's all getting normalized. And so, as I said, you're going to see uh, the next, the evolution of this with bestiality, pedophilia, and incest. All right, we'll be right back. All right, continuing. Um, and we should be able to make it through this. And then afterwards, I want to share an article which is just mind blowing. That it's just crazy, the reality and where we are now. As far as the insanity that is going on in world and what has been accepted as normal. And so, continuing with number 6, which I said was make homosexuality an alternative lifestyle. Alice Bailey also said to make it illegal for a preacher to mention homosexuality as an abomination in the eyes of God or to read scriptures publicly that talk about homosexuality. One other major goal is to desensitize people to perverse sexuality being an abomination before the eyes of God. And so, they don't want people to be judged according to their behavior or to their actions or any association as to, um, God not just disliking, but absolutely hating homosexuality as a way of being. All right, number 7. Debase art and make it run mad. So, how? Promote new forms of art which corrupt and defile the imagination of people because art is the language of the spirit, language of soul, and people must be given the freedom to express whatever is inside them without fear of judgment or retribution. That art is a form of expression that should be afforded protection so that through it the culture can be corrupted and abomination promoted. Through various mediums such as painting, music, film, young minds can then be influenced and led astray into accepting abomination as normality. And how so true is that? I mean, just would look at the gangster rap and the lifestyle that was promoted by all the rappers and the murder, the insanity that was taking place between even East and West Coast rappers, you know, individuals being killed and beef being created, all this angst being created by these two divisions, like with the Bloods and the Crips, and how they will kill you for wearing their colors or the opposite color. And that children just waking up deciding, well, I'm going to wear blue today. The walking down the street, they have no idea that they've made themselves targets, and because of wearing those colors, that they're going to be murdered today. I mean, that's how insane it is. Number 8, which goes in part with number 7, because these two work hand in hand. Use media to promote and change mindset, or basically use media propaganda in order to drive acceptance of certain type of lifestyle or belief or whatever. I mean, they basically can get people to believe anything they want just by repeating the lie over and over and over through film and media and I mean, so much. We have been deceived on so much just because we believe what we see in film or on the news or what we see and learn in school. So, Alice Bailey said the greatest channel for the New World Order to utilize in changing an attitude is the media, and that the true influence of the press, radio, TV, and cinema is unmeasured. And that, we, I mean, talking 50 years back, this was near a time when, the TV was really just coming out, and these media networks, ABC, CBS, and NBC, were just getting started and just getting up and running. and yet she was able to conceptualize how brainwashed people would be just by watching over and over the programming that is instituted through the television god, which is exactly what it is. All right. People, and especially children, can be easily influenced and subverted into accepting abomination as the norm with the use of media. So very true. And you combine that with art, or whether it's music and uh, in whatever form, but especially with the gangster rap, uh, and then film. Like, look at the influence that MTV has on our children's lives, the kind of things that they bring on as programming. And then tell me you don't see that reflected in culture, in the society, amongst the the children. All right. Sex outside of marriage, promiscuity, homosexuality, pedophilia, and much more will all be promoted by media and sanctioned by culture as being natural, normal. Children's minds are being neutralized to sensitivity on these kinds of issues, while at the same time, Christian values are withheld from their ever being viewed or ever being seen. Yeah, ask the question why on the news every night we have to see stories of, who got murdered, who got robbed, who got brutalized, who got beat up, what kind of school shooting happened, what kind of war. I mean, you rarely ever see stories of people, random acts of kindness, of helping and supporting one another, of taking care of each other. I mean, it's very rare that those kind of things are promoted in the media or on these different uh, television channels. Look at the movies. It's always rape, pillage, and plunder, war, and cheating on your husband, and sleeping with whoever. I mean, that is the kind of thing that is mostly witnessed by children in watching the television. And we wonder why they are the way that they are, and we question ourselves as to why they run rampant, why they are, you know, so wrapped up in sin and evil, and you know conducting themselves in such behavior. Well, not only are they not being taught, um, not being given any kind of Christian value, not being taught or encouraged to have relationship with the Creator God. Not they're not being taught to pray or to even believe in a God. And then we wonder why they're so lost. Tell me you don't see all of these things being played out and having been played out over decades. And this was written over 50 years ago. All right, number 9. Create an interfaith movement. Alice Bailey wrote, promote other faiths to be at par with Christianity and break this thing about Christianity as being the only way to heaven. By that, Christianity will be pulled down and other faiths promoted. and that they must establish in promotion the importance of man in determining his own future and destiny, that they must elevate humanism, that they must make others believe that every person has the right to choose what he or she wants to do and be, and that they have the power within themselves to make all of this happen, and the right to determine one's own cause and whether they believe in God or not, or whether they believe that they are God. And that such ideology would replace God and remove him from his throne, that men can be their own God. I mean, this is what Nietzsche was referencing as the Superman. This is what so much, New Age rhetoric teaches, as far as you can be your own God, and that we can all aspire to do and uh, to be Christ like. That, there was nothing special about Jesus Christ, Yeshua. Now, even though he was born of a virgin and, God was his father, and that he was God incarnate, but there's nothing special about him. He was just one of those ascended masters or ancient aliens, and that we can do the same thing. That's the lie being told and repeated since, Adam and Eve. And it's still ongoing. And why? Because it works. Because it works. All right, continue, and then I'm going to share the news story with you. It is important to subjugate the churches through the influence of government and force people of faith to accept New Age doctrines. And I didn't even tell you what the directive was. Let me read that first. Number 10, the final directive of this 10-point plan by Alice Bailey to institute the New World Order. Number 10, get governments to make all these principles, these laws that we've just been talking about, uh, make them and pass them as law. And in that way, influence the churches to endorse these changes, especially the 501c3 churches that have their tax status dependent upon whether they go along with government and abide by the rules and the regulations and conform to those teachings which have been propagated and perpetuated by government. Like right now, the whole thing of homosexuality and the equal rights given to homosexual couples and to homosexual ministers, the priests and um, the different, like the guy that came out today to his congregation that he was gay. I mean, it is absolutely ripping apart and dividing churches and whole, like Anglican churches or Presbyterian churches or whatever. The ruling authority over those congregations worldwide are having to side one way or the other with going along and accepting the normalization of homosexuality and allowing their priests to be um, part and honoring that as law and making that as extending the and honoring people's rights over that of the doctrine of the church. I mean, that's what's happening. And so let me read this one more time. the commentary on number 10, then we'll go into this article. It is important to subjugate the churches through the influence of government and force people of faith to accept New Age doctrines and to conform, accept, and accommodate the laws which will be passed in support of people's rights, even when they contradict biblical values or beliefs. And I mean, you just like, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling among the nations. This issue is dividing the Christian world. All right, I want to read this article that it's crazy. This will tell you how far this agenda has come, and it will illustrate in example the effects of these rules upon the world. The name of the article is Numbers of Prominent Pedophile Suspects Rise. And this was an article that I posted to the fallenangels.tv website on February 2nd of 2016. It says this: the number of people of public prominence or in institutions believed to have committed historical child abuse offenses has increased substantially in the past 9 months. New figures have revealed that the statistics collated from police forces across the UK under Operation Hydrant show that as of February 1st, there were 2,328 alleged offenders, 895 more than at the end of May last year. Hydrant was set up in the summer of 2014 by the National Policing Lead for Child Protection and Abuse Investigations, Chief Constable Simon Bailey, as a coordination hub overseeing investigation of non-recent child sexual abuse allegations within organizations or by those in the public eye. Around 10%, 298 of the 2,328 alleged offenders are deceased. Of these, 1,585 are within institutions and 319 are classed as persons of public prominence. The list includes 157 from the world of TV, film, or radio, 91 politicians, local as well as national, 44 people from the music industry, and 18 from the world of sport. Now remember, these are people of prominence, recognized within the mainstream media. Now, this is only in the UK as well. Remember that as well. All right. Mr. Bailey said, the operation ensures the service has a full understanding of the scale of historical child sexual exploitation and that officers undertaking these investigations within forces are provided with central guidelines, expertise, and access to learning and best practice. It is also important to note that the offenses which fall under or remit are an extremely small percentage of the overall cases of child sexual abuse, which the service responds to on a daily basis, most of which is committed within an interfamilial setting by someone related to or known to the child. Talk about destroying the family unit. Approximately a quarter of offenders, 580, are known or identified. Almost 850 different institutions are listed under Operation Hydrant. These include 320 schools, 227 children's homes, 96 religious institutions, 42 medical establishments, 26 prisons, young offenders institutes, 24 sports venues, and 11 institutions and communities, including youth clubs and community centers. Now, what am I reading? For those that don't know, I am reading about the Hampstead satanic child abuse cases and interviews. When you read them, it is ungodly the things that these children were made to do and involved in, including child sacrifice, where at the age of 7, these kids were being pimped out by their own parents and shared among principals and teachers and other families, and they were involved in satanic ritual abuse. I'm going to read really quick just a little bit from another article. Devastating and false allegations. Well, this is not false at all. In Hampstead have plunged. Wait, this is a propaganda piece. I guess what I should do, I'm going to link an article. I mean, not an article, but a video, because I just looked it up. A video of the um, of a person, a woman, and Nighthawk actually, the owner of the network here, sent me this information, and I was blown away by it. Uh-oh. Sorry about that. That's the link. Let me actually click on the video and then I'll give it to you. But the testimony that is given by these young children, this 14-year-old girl talking about all the times that she was abused, and her grandmother, under the care of her grandmother, um, it is insane the kind of things that these children underwent. So please check this video out when you have time. Let me post one more. And for those that might want to look this up for themselves later, the name of the video is Satanic Ritual Abuse Report, similar to that of Hampstead. And the other one is this one that I'm about to link into the chat room, where the young girl is being interviewed by one of the lead investigators. The name of that video is Hampstead Christchurch Satanic Ritual Infant Murder. Whistleblower child a witness to statement. And as I said, these videos are going to blow your mind. And they are going to show you, demonstrate to you just how insane things are and how